Hello? Can you hear me? If you can hear me, if you could just type in the chat box. Do we have anybody with us still now that we're running 15 minutes late? Well, we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to apologize, and this is what a perfect segue for getting started about 15 minutes late. We will still end at 12:30. So welcome to your desk, your space, your yoga. And again, what an appropriate way to begin this this episode, this webinar series, because it's kind of like one of those things you can't plan for things that come up, especially technical difficulties. I'm sure you all can relate to that in the day-to-day. And so it's when things happen and things come up, whether it be at work or at home. We're talking about work specifically. So when you're in that work environment and things happen that that will drive you crazy, and maybe they raise your blood pressure a little bit, they create the tension in the shoulders. How do you handle that? Whether it be your broadcast not working, or whether it be a meeting that you just got out of, whether it be that pile of work that's just keeps growing and growing, how do you handle that? Because I think that's a very real scenario. Obviously, we just experienced that here. I just experienced that, where things are going to happen that you don't have control over. And so how do you find tools and resources that can help you work through some of those experiences? And that's what today's all about. So we're going to take what was 30 minutes and put it into 15 minutes. And my goal today is to send you away with a couple of things that you can really use and have with you at your desk to help through that chaos. Because what tends to happen is when the chaos happens around us, again, whether it be technical difficulties, meetings, phone calls, just that to-do list that keeps growing and growing, chaos also starts to happen internally. And so your desk, your space, your yoga is how do you calm that chaos? How do you keep the external chaos from creating internal chaos? And so my goal, again, today is to provide you with a couple of things that are going to help you to calm that corporate chaos, calm that experience, and calm your internal environment, even when your external environment may be going completely haywire. So first thing I'd like to clarify is, and when we say yoga, what am I referring to? So we might think standing on your head on your desk, or doing crazy poses on your desk, and that's really not what I'm talking about here. Yoga is really bringing movement and breath together. If we bring it down to its simplest terms, that's what yoga is about. And so that can come in a lot of different ways, especially in your 9 to 5. And one of the most simplest ways when things get crazy is just to sit back and breathe. And I know it sounds overly simple. I don't want to make it more complicated than it is, but that really is how simple it is. When things get crazy, and I caught myself several times this morning doing it, where I was starting to just do this over the computer. Like, the more the work comes, the more we just start to sink and sink and sink and sink. And so when you catch yourself doing that, when you catch yourself literally getting buried by the chaos, the feelings, the emotion, just sit back and almost like even do this, right? Like where you roll your shoulders back. So almost exaggerate up and roll them back. Chances are you probably naturally do this. It's a subconscious practice where you naturally do this anyway on your own. So I'm probably not teaching you anything new. I'm just maybe bringing awareness to when we start to hunch over. So that's number one. Be conscious of things that are burying you, okay? And physically, just set yourself back. Take a minute. And when you sit back, just be conscious. I have a tendency, I'll show you. My neck does this. So even when I'm sitting back, I'll still pull on my neck. So you want your spine to actually be straight. That's what you're going for here, is really a straight spine. So if you don't have the best chair that's going to help you to do that, it's consciously thinking about how do you keep that straight spine even when you're sitting back. That's going to keep you from sinking forward and literally getting buried by the work. So don't get buried. Sit up. Control what you can control is number 2. Perfect example, 15 minutes late starting. I don't want to keep harping on that, but I always want to be on time. I want to be on time for all of you who made time to be here. So control what you can control. There's going to be plenty of things, especially in the work environment, that you don't have control over. The key to managing your energy and keeping that chaos calm, not allowing that external chaos to come into your space, is to identify what are those things that you have control over and what are those things that you don't have control over. So when you understand what you have control over versus what you don't have control over, you can choose where to put your energy. When I say the word energy, I'm thinking about what we give energy to in our mind, what we give attention to with our thoughts, with our work, with our words. When you can make the distinction between, I may like to have change over here if there's a certain initiative at work that's happening, or a project team, or maybe it's a conference call or a meeting that you were in where you're going, man, why are they doing it that way? Why is it I wouldn't do it that way? Why is so-and-so making that decision? Why is that guy, my boss, always showing up this way or that way? You know, whatever thoughts play in your mind, bringing awareness to that and almost putting them in buckets. My controllables, my non-controllables. So this is part of your yoga, is where do you put your energy? What are you giving attention to? Because what you give attention to mentally with your words and physically will determine really how you feel. And that's going to either create and feed that chaos, or it's going to calm that chaos. So homework number 2 is just start to pay attention to what you are giving energy to. Again, whether it be with your thoughts, whether you're sitting in a meeting. I mean, those are great places. Or whether you're on a conference call. Watch where that mind goes. Are you judging 5 other people in the room about what they're saying and what they do or what they don't do, or how they show up versus how they say they show up? Just pay attention to what you give attention to. What do you leave and then go talk about after the meeting? So that's your homework, to really just start to understand, where do you give attention and where do you give your energy? Because until you understand where you're giving your energy and where you give your attention, you can't really determine how to make any changes. So that's your homework assignment. Homework assignment number 2. Homework assignment number 1 is pay attention to when you're starting to get buried and make the choice to come back up. So last thing I want to bring attention to is your breath. So physically, we talked about being buried, sitting straight up, long spine. We talked about the energy and our attention and our words and our thoughts. And then the last thing that you can do just in your space is pay attention to your breath. And this goes for anything, whether you're at your desk, whether you're in a meeting, whether you're walking from the office to your car, thinking about and bringing attention. So when that mind starts to want to wander, bring your attention back to your breath. So we're not going to go on this story-long journey about how we wish this guy would do this, or how we wish they wouldn't take so long to make this decision, or if I know a common one I hear people talk about a lot is if they would just only do it this way. And again, that goes back to your controllables. While we would love to have control over certain things, we have control over just what we do, who we are, and how we respond. So your breath is a great response tool when you're in those moments where that chaos is starting to get to you, right? The external chaos is starting to create internal chaos. Your breath is a tool that you can come back to calm that chaos. And it's as simple as I know it sounds crazy. I know you might feel crazy doing it. Funny story for you. my team that I used to lead a couple years ago, and they come to mind specifically because they would say to me, oh, she's over there doing that lion's breath again. So they knew when I was just taking a minute. I was taking a minute to sit back, calm down, and just let whatever was getting ready to process up here and take my attention and make me frustrated, or just pull my energy away from where it needed to be. They knew that's what I was doing with that breathing. So again, you may feel crazy the first couple times doing it, but the more that you really breathe, the more that you bring attention to your breath, one, the better you're going to feel. And two, it's like pressing a pause button. So if you can imagine the old stereo systems that used to be there, or even like the old VCR, I used to love, the old tapes and the old stereo systems. Pause. Imagine a pause button. That's what you're doing. When you're breathing, when you're sitting back, when you are consciously aware enough to go, wait a minute, where is my mind going? You're pressing a pause button. So that breath can continue where you're doing the deep inhale and the long exhale. Or you can just consciously say to yourself, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So you see, you don't have to stand on your head. You don't have to do any crazy poses. This is like series 1 of your desk, your space, your yoga. Here's an added bonus. If you want to get really crazy, raise your arms up over your head. Again, you might do this anyway. You can just lean side to side, right? You're creating space in your ribs here. More space for the energy to flow, more space for you just to move. We get so cramped up and again buried that the more you just move and the more you allow for the breath to come through, the better you're going to feel. And again, the more you're going to calm that chaos. So you'll never stop the chaos. You'll never change the chaos around you. But the only thing that you can change is how you respond. So 3 tools for you today. Straighten up so you don't get buried. Pay attention to what you have control over versus what you don't have control over by bringing more awareness to what you think, what you say, and how you feel in those trigger situations. And the third thing is just breathe. Really, all the world's problems can be solved if you just breathe. Press the pause button and just breathe. So we'll continue to do these series. There's so much more that we could talk about. My goal is to bring you as many tools and resources as possible to bring that calm, that zen, that peace into the workspace. I know how crazy it can get. I still work in the traditional work environment through consulting work. I worked in a traditional work environment for many, many years. And when I say traditional work environment, any kind of setting where you come to work with other people, where you're moving a project, a vision, a company, whatever you want to call it, forward. So you don't have to be sitting at a desk or in a cube. It's really any place that you come to do work with other people. So bringing these tools to you in a way that you can keep the calm on the inside, even when the chaos is happening on the outside. So again, I am Dr. Jodi Ashbrook, jodiashbrook.com. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your patience. And stay tuned for the next webinar that will be next month. Take care, have a great day, and be calm.